Hello and welcome to Piston. I'm Keshi Dylan, and in today's video I want to tell you the key differences between the Volkswagen Tiguan Elegance line as well as the Volkswagen Tiguan R line. Well, hang on and I'll tell you everything there is to know as well as the key differences between both the Tiguan models. Of course, one of the key differences is of course the exterior, but before we get to the differences, let's talk about the similarities. Both cars get LED headlights and they also get this LED illuminated light strip, as you can see on the R line as well. This has now become a Volkswagen signature touch. Almost all Volkswagens have this, including the new Golf as well. It's a very cool touch, I kind of like it. But other than that though, the differences between both models are vast. As you can see, the Elegance gets a lot more subdued, more, can I say it, elegant kind of front bumper, where else the R line gets a lot of chrome. You get a lot of chrome touches, where else over here you get a lot of silver touch. And this gives the R line a very sporting appeal as compared to the Elegance. And of course, differentiating the R line from the Elegance is this R logo over here, which, if you can't already tell, is the logo that identifies this as an R model. This is of course an R line. Well, but if you go and research, the Tiguan also is about to spawn an R model, just as the Golf also has an R model as well. And it's this logo that differentiates the more sporting car than from the more elegant model. Now the R line also gets this gorgeous 19-inch Valencia wheels that are wrapped in 255/45 Pirelli tires, and on the side here you get this R emblem that differentiates this from the Elegance. Where else on the Elegance line you get this Frankfurt 18-inch Frankfurt wheels wrapped in 235/55 18-inch tires, and on the side here, as you saw earlier, you saw the R logo over there. Well, in the Elegance it says All-Space, and this entire thing is chrome. Now, besides the very obvious difference in body kit, both the Elegance and the R line are almost identical in size. But what if I told you they're actually not? The Elegance is actually 1 millimeter taller, 2 millimeters longer. The R line, however, is 20 millimeters wider. Why? I suspect it's got something to do with the all-wheel drive system. So there you have it. Both cars, though they might look identical except for the body kit, they're actually very different in size. And even from the back, both cars might look similar. Similar because they both share the same rear LED lights and they both share the same logo placements, except that this one gets 4Motion, which is VW lingo for four-wheel drive, because this is actually an all-wheel drive model, the R line. But there are other distinguishing factors as well, such as the roof spoiler, a very cool roof spoiler you get with the R line, and then you get this body-colored rear bumper, and unfortunately you also get fake exhausts. What's up with fake exhausts? Now, the real exhausts are actually placed behind. And now on the Elegance, same logo placements, except that you don't get the 4Motion logo here. But unfortunately, you also get fake exhausts. Like I said, the fake exhausts are actually behind. But the other unfortunate thing is you get this very cheap looking plastic bumper, rear bumper. And this plastic panel extends all the way to the side of the car, and it really cheapens the overall look and feel of the car. The other thing that a lot of VW fans have been complaining about is the logo placement of the Tiguan logo. It has been moved from the side to the center. Now, the main difference between both cars is of course the engine. Now let's start with the Elegance model. This is a 1.4 litre TSI engine. It's a tried, tested, proven power plant in our Malaysian conditions. It's mated to a 6-speed gearbox and it produces about 150 PS and 250 Newton meters of torque, which is actually not that powerful. In fact, this engine is better suited for fuel economy. If you want power though, this is the car you want, because this engine is actually the same engine that powers the Golf GTI. Of course, it's detuned. It produces 220 PS, which is roughly about 217 horsepower, and produces 315 Newton meters of torque. It sends power to all 4 wheels, whereas the Elegance model is a front-wheel drive model. So if you want something that is fun to drive and make some fun noises, this is the car you want. Of course, being an all-wheel drive system and being quite powerful, it needs a lot of petrol. So Volkswagen has given it a bigger fuel tank. So fuel tank in here measures in at 60 litres, whereas the Elegance model has a 58-litre fuel tank. Now driving the Volkswagen Tiguan All-Space R-Line is actually quite fun, simply because of that engine, the all-wheel drive system, the drive mode selector, as well as something called dynamic chassis control. I'll tell you more about that shortly. But the engine, for example, produces about 220 PS and 315 Newton meters of torque. As I mentioned earlier, it's the same engine that was found in the Golf GT as well, although it has been detuned. But the way it delivers power is what makes it quite fun to drive actually. It's just, and if you can hear that, it actually sounds quite nice as well. And with the drive mode selectors, of course, the Elegance too has driving modes as well, but that just adjusts the heft of the steering wheel, the sensitivity of the accelerator pedal, and if I'm not mistaken, it also adjusts how quickly the gears shift. Likewise in the R-Line as well, but in the R-Line, it also adjusts the suspension and the way the chassis feels as well. So it gives it a very sporty character. So it really immerses you in that whichever mode it is that you have selected. So I press this button here, choose Sport. Immediately the steering wheel feels heavier, the suspension is firmer because I can feel everything that the road is doing right now. And then if I put my foot down, it sounds a lot more aggressive as well. But overall, you just feel a lot more connected to the car in sport mode as compared to the Elegance. And if you put it into comfort, the gears shift a lot earlier. From 4th, the gearbox immediately shifted to 7th. You know, it's just a lot more comfortable. The suspension is soaking up the bumps in the road, and it's just a lot more softer. So this is what I mean, that the car offers you a better driving experience because of these electronic gizmos on board. Now the dynamic chassis control is selected via this dial over here, and if you turn it to the left, it takes you into snow driving. You turn it to the right, it goes onto the road. You turn it to the right again, it goes onto off-road again, and off-road expert. Because this is an all-wheel drive car, so you can basically, Volkswagen thinks that you can take it off-roading, but you really shouldn't. The snow profile, off-roading profile is more suited to countries where you have winter or you have very basically 4 seasons. So the road conditions are always changing depending on the conditions that you are in. Whereas in Malaysia, it's either hot or it's raining. But I do imagine that when it's raining very heavily, you can change it to off-road auto or even snow driving, because this will probably give you better traction in slippery conditions. So that's what I mean, that the R-Line simply gives you a much nicer driving experience than the Elegance. But if there's one thing that I really do not appreciate about both these models, either the R-Line or the Elegance, is the fact that none of them come with ADAS, Advanced Driver Aid Systems, which is a bit of a shame actually, crying shame, because ADAS consists of safety suites such as blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, adaptive cruise control. A lot of these technologies combine and they make up ADAS. You know, things like blind spot monitoring can be very handy. Rear cross traffic alert is, I have a Mazda CX-5 and it comes with rear cross traffic alert and it does wonders. It sees things that you do not see when you're reversing. So I think it's a bit of a crying shame that none of these Volkswagens comes with ADAS. And that's kind of a deal breaker for me, honestly, because you're paying quite a lot of money, 220,000 for the R-Line and 175,000 for the Elegance. Is a lot of money, and then you don't get something as simple as ADAS, which a lot of cheaper cars have. Makes you wonder whether it's actually worth it. Now the interior is where most of the magic happens, and both cars share identical interiors, actually very nearly identical. I'll speak about the differences shortly, but in terms of living space, in terms of quality and feel, both cars the interior of both cars feels very nice. You get this very cool 9.8 inch screen, which is actually wave enabled. If you see that, I just have to do my hand, just move my hand like this, and it lets me scroll through the menu. This is a very cool touch. And then you get this 11.7 inch digital cockpit screen over there. This is Volkswagen lingo for an all digital screen up front, so there's no analog dials whatsoever. Everything is digital. So even the air conditioning buttons right now are digital as well. Volkswagen says that they call it haptic touch. So what happens is you can just slide your finger like this. So to adjust the air conditioning, you can either slide it like this or you can just touch it like this, you know, to go through the air conditioning settings. And the same for the climate, the temperature as well, the temperature settings. You can just slide your finger like that and it'll adjust accordingly. So this is actually quite cool. Or if you don't want to bother sliding your finger, you can just do this. Yep, you can just tap on it. So everything else is of course touch enabled. It's very cool. It's a very cool interior. It's very user friendly. It's very modern. So you can also connect your phones to the entertainment system wirelessly. So there's wireless Apple CarPlay, there's wireless Android Auto, which is actually quite cool. And you also get, of course, USB slots. However, with most, actually all modern Volkswagens, they only come with Type-C USB slots. So everything else about the interior is actually very nice. And you get a lot of storage space up here. Now differentiating the R-Line from the Elegance model is this carbon grey inserts over here, this trimming, which is very cool, very sporty. And you also get this R-Line door scarves at the bottom there, which distinguishes the Elegance from the R-Line. And the other thing is the R-Line also comes with a 10-speaker Harman Kardon sound system, which is absolutely banging. It's such a nice sound system to listen to your favorite music to, but it takes up storage space because in the Elegance model, as I'll demonstrate later, at the top over here is actually storage space, where else, because this comes with a Harman Kardon sound system, so up here that storage space has been taken up by a speaker, which I think is a very cool trade-off because the sound system is amazing. As I said, you get plenty of storage spaces up here, so if you got to lose out on the storage space there, I think it's a worthy trade-off. In terms of driving dynamics, the Tiguan All-Space Elegance, well, it seems to do everything right. You know, it has all the safety features, it has all the tech, it has all the gadgetry, but it's just not very exciting to drive. This 1.4 litre engine mated to a 6-speed gearbox, well, it's a tried and tested powertrain already, and it's sort of a fail-safe powertrain out there, and it's been in the market for a while. It's been powering different Volkswagen models, and it's more suited to fuel efficiency rather than driving excitement. And that's what the Elegance, I guess, delivers very well. It delivers almost everything very well. You know, it's comfortable. The suspension soaks up everything. It's quiet in here. Everything feels well built. In terms of entertainment, of course, it doesn't have that Harman Kardon sound system, where else the R-Line has that. But it's not a deal breaker of sorts. It does everything right. It just doesn't perfect it. In terms of driving excitement, well, 150 PS, 250 Newton meters of torque, you're not going to get anywhere fast. All that power is transferred to the front wheels, so it feels very front heavy, and you can't really attack corners with it. Not like you should be attacking corners with the Tiguan All-Space anyway, but that's what you can do with the R-Line. It's quite fun to drive, which sadly the Elegance is not. So it does everything right, it's just not very exciting to drive. Now we are in the Elegance model, and as you can see, it's nearly identical to the R-Line, except for the trimming. In the Elegance model, you get something called barrel craft trimming. I'm not quite sure what barrel craft trimming is, but that's what Volkswagen is saying, that these trimmings are known as barrel craft trimming. So I'll take their word for it. It actually kind of looks nice, and everything else about the interior is identical, except for the fact that it doesn't come with a Harman Kardon sound system, which is a bit of a bummer. But in place of that speaker up at the front here, which you get in the R-Line, in the place of that speaker, you get storage space at the front here. And everything else is identical. You also get the same perforated leather seats, ventilated as they are in the R-Line as well. So you get to either cool them or heat them. And how do you adjust that? Is through this button here. I actually love ventilated seats. It's such a nice thing to have on a hot day such as today. Oh, and you also get 30 different ambient light settings. 30 different light setting, guys. I know Mercedes has about 60, but this is still kind of cool. So as you can see, as I'm adjusting the light settings, even on the meter panel here, it's changing as well. So now it's blue, now it's dark blue, now it's purple, now it's pink. So yeah, you get to choose one color for every day of the month. You get 30 different light settings, which is kind of cool actually. So there you have it. Everything else is identical, and you get a lot of space inside here. Of course, it's called All-Space. Anyway, let me demonstrate. In terms of sitting space, especially in the back seats, so you can see it's a lot of sitting space. I'm actually very comfortable. But if I have to complain about something, I would like to complain about the padding of the seats. As you can see, they're not very rich or thick. They do not have very thick padding in that sense. So it's actually kind of firm. But in terms of spaciousness, it's actually very nice, very spacious. And I like the fact that you get this tiny storage spaces, pockets of storage spaces everywhere. Of course, you get air conditioning vents, adjustable temperature settings as well. So are these haptic? No, these are not haptic. And you get one Type-C USB slot at the back here, together with a 12-volt socket. So yeah, but this is actually a 7-seater. Let's go check out the back seats. Now, let's explore the third row seats. So to access the third row, they're already in place actually. They're quite easy to fold in place. So now, let me push this forward and see if I can get my fat ass back here. I doubt Volkswagen ever wanted anybody of my size to be seated at the back here, but you actually can. It's not very comfortable. It'll do for a short journey to the shops or to the mama. But yeah, I made myself fit. I'm about 6 feet tall and I fit behind here. Not bad, right? Should lose some weight though. So then there you have it, guys. Everything there is to know, and then some, on the all-new Volkswagen Tiguan All-Space Elegance and the Tiguan All-Space R-Line. So now the big question is, which should you spend your money on? Well, let's do some calculations just to think about some variables over here. The R-Line, for example, costs about 220,000 ringgit on the road, and assuming that you put a down payment of 30,000 ringgit for a 5-year tenor at a 3.5% interest rate, you're roughly going to be paying about 3,700 ringgit. Well, for the Elegance, it costs about 178,000 ringgit on the road. Assuming you put down a down payment of 20,000 ringgit for a 5-year tenor at a 3.5% interest rate, you're going to be paying a little under 3,100 ringgit. So, which means that the difference, now that the variables we have are the same, the difference between both cars is roughly about 700 ringgit. So if you don't mind that 700 ringgit difference, of course, go for the R-Line. It's it's the sports daddy's car. It's the car that everybody loves to drive, that is really fun to drive. It's power-packed and it's spacious, it's full of technology and gadgetry, and it comes with everything basically you need. I love that sound system as well. The Elegance though is the much more subdued version. It still has everything, almost everything that the R-Line has, except that it's more, doesn't have the power, it's more suited for fuel economy, it's more suited for cruising around town. Whereas this one, you can have some serious fun with. This one does everything this does, except that it doesn't have all that power. It's more suited for fuel economy. It doesn't have that amazing sound system. I would go for the R-Line. Thank you for watching. I'm Keshi Dylan. I hope I helped you make up your mind, and do consider subscribing as usual. Thanks.